Today we are discussing the interview questions and answers for AWS Solutions Architect Professional SAP. You can download the complete list of AWS based questions from the link provided in the description. Our interview question based on AWS SAP is: explain the differences between Amazon Aurora and traditional relational database systems. Your answer should be: Amazon Aurora is a fully managed relational database engine designed for high performance and scalability, offering features like auto-scaling, multi-master replication, and storage auto-scaling. Traditional relational database systems typically require manual scaling, lack built-in replication, and high availability features, and may have higher maintenance overhead. Our next interview question is: what is the AWS Global Accelerator and how does it improve application performance? Your answer should be: AWS Global Accelerator is a networking service that improves the availability and performance of your applications by routing user traffic to the nearest AWS edge location based on latency and health checks. It reduces latency and improves application performance by leveraging the AWS Global Network infrastructure. Our next interview question is: how do you design a disaster recovery strategy for AWS services? Your answer should be: designing a disaster recovery strategy for AWS services involves implementing multi-region redundancy using services like Amazon Route 53 for DNS failover, replicating data across regions using services like Amazon S3 cross-region replication and Amazon RDS multi-AZ deployment, and regularly testing and updating the recovery plan. Our next interview question is: what are the benefits of using Amazon Elastic File System EFS over Amazon EBS? Your answer should be: Amazon EFS is a fully managed file storage service that provides scalable shared file storage for Linux-based workloads. It offers benefits over Amazon EBS such as scalability, that is, no need to provision storage in advance, shared access across multiple instances, and automatic storage scaling based on workload demand. Our next interview question is: how do you implement data caching in AWS for improving application performance? Your answer should be: data caching in AWS can be implemented using services like Amazon Elastic Cache for caching data in memory or Amazon CloudFront for caching content at edge locations. By caching frequently accessed data closer to the end users, you can reduce latency and improve application performance. Our next interview question is: what is Amazon FSx and how is it used for file storage? Your answer should be: Amazon FSx is a fully managed file storage service that provides scalable and highly available file systems compatible with Windows File Server, that is Amazon FSx for Windows File Server, or Lustre, Amazon FSx for Lustre. It simplifies file storage provisioning and management for Windows-based or high-performance computing workloads. Our next interview question is explain the concept of AWS Lambda event sources. Your answer should be AWS Lambda event sources are services or resources that trigger the execution of Lambda functions. Event sources can include services like Amazon S3, Amazon DynamoDB, Amazon Kinesis, Amazon SQS, and more. Lambda functions can be automatically invoked in response to events from these sources. If you are preparing for any AWS based certifications, you can download the complete list of valid, tried and tested questions and answers from the link provided in the description below. Today we are discussing the interview questions and answers for AWS Solutions Architect Professional SAP. You can download the complete list of AWS-based questions from the link provided in the description. Our interview question based on AWS SAP is: how do you implement cross-region replication for Amazon S3 buckets? Your answer should be cross-region replication for Amazon S3 buckets can be implemented by enabling versioning on the source bucket, creating a replication rule to specify the destination bucket and target region, and configuring permissions for replications. Our next interview question is: what is AWS Private Link and how does it enhance security for accessing AWS services? Your answer should be AWS Private Link is a service that enables you to privately access AWS services from your virtual private cloud VPC without exposing your traffic to the public internet. It enhances security by keeping network traffic within the AWS network and eliminating the need for public IP addresses or internet gateways. Our next interview question is explain the concept of Amazon EFS infrequent access EFSIA. Your answer should be Amazon EFS Infrequent Access EFSIA is a storage class for Amazon EFS that provides cost savings by storing files that are accessed less frequently at a lower storage cost compared to standard storage class. It offers the same durability and performance as the standard storage class. Our next interview question is: how do you implement automated backups and point in time recovery for Amazon RDS databases? Your answer should be automated backups and point in time recovery for Amazon RDS databases can be implemented by enabling automated backups in the RDS instance settings, setting the retention period for backups, and using the AWS Management Console or AWS CLI to restore to a specific point in time. Our next interview question is: what is AWS App Mesh and how does it simplify microservices communication? Your answer should be AWS App Mesh is a service mesh that provides application level networking for microservices running on AWS. It simplifies microservices communication by providing centralized control and visibility over traffic management, service discovery, and monitoring. Our next interview question is: how do you monitor and optimize cost for AWS services? Your answer should be monitoring and optimizing costs for AWS services involve using tools like AWS Cost Explorer for cost analysis, setting up budgets and alerts, leveraging cost allocation tags, using reserved instances or savings plans, and regularly reviewing and optimizing resource uses. Our next interview question is, what is the AWS Data Sync service and how does it facilitate data transfer? Your answer should be AWS Data Sync is a data transfer service that makes it easy to automate and accelerate data transfers between on-premises storage systems and AWS storage services like Amazon S3, Amazon EFS, and Amazon FSx for Windows File Server. If you are preparing for any AWS based certifications, you can download the complete list of valid, tried and tested questions and answers from the link provided in the description below. Today we are discussing the interview questions and answers for AWS Solutions Architect Professional SAP. You can download the complete list of AWS-based questions from the link provided in the description. Our interview question based on AWS SAP is, what is the AWS Data Migration Service DMS and how is it used? Your answer should be AWS Database Migration Service DMS is a managed service that helps you migrate databases to AWS with minimal downtime. It supports homogeneous, for example, Oracle to Oracle, and heterogeneous, for example, Oracle to Amazon Aurora database migrations, and provides features like continuous replication and schema conversion. Our next interview question is, how do you implement cross-account access using AWS IAM roles? Your answer should be cross-account access using AWS IAM roles involves creating an IAM role in one AWS account and granting permissions to access resources in another AWS account. The trust relationship between the accounts allows users or services in the first account to assume the role and access resources in the second account securely. Our next interview question is, explain the differences between AWS Code Commit, AWS Code Build, and AWS Code Deploy. Your answer should be AWS Code Commit is a fully managed source control service for hosting Git repositories. AWS Code Build is a fully managed build service for compiling and testing code. And AWS Code Deploy is a deployment service for automating application deployments to EC2 instances, Lambda functions, or on-premises servers. Our next interview question is, how do you implement data replication and synchronization between on-premises data centers and AWS? Your answer should be data replication and synchronization between on-premises data centers and AWS can be implemented using services like AWS Data Sync, AWS Storage Gateway, or third-party replication solutions. These services provide options for real-time or scheduled replication of data to AWS storage services. Our next interview question is, what is AWS Elemental Media Live and how is it used for live video streaming? Your answer should be AWS Elemental Media Live is a broadcast grade live video processing service that encodes, transcodes, and delivers live video streams for broadcast, television, and online streaming platforms. It supports features like real-time video processing, adaptive bitrate streaming, and integration with other AWS services. Our next interview question is, how do you optimize network performance in AWS? Your answer should be network performance in AWS can be optimized by selecting appropriate instance types and sizes, choosing low latency AWS regions and availability zones, leveraging AWS Direct Connect or AWS Global Accelerator for dedicated network connections, and implementing content delivery networks CDNs like Amazon CloudFront. Our next interview question is, explain the differences between Amazon CloudFront and Amazon API Gateway. Your answer should be Amazon CloudFront is a content delivery network CDN service for caching and delivering content globally with low latency, while Amazon API Gateway is a fully managed service for creating, publishing, and managing APIs at scale. CloudFront is used for caching static and dynamic content, while API Gateway is used for creating and managing APIs. If you are preparing for any AWS-based certifications, you can download the complete list of valid, tried and tested questions and answers from the link provided in the description below. Today we are discussing the interview questions and answers for AWS Solutions Architect Professional SAP. You can download the complete list of AWS based questions from the link provided in the description. Our interview question based on AWS SAP is, what is the AWS well-architected framework and how do you apply it? Your answer should be the AWS well-architected framework provides best practices for building secure, high-performing, resilient, and efficient infrastructure in AWS. It consists of 5 pillars: operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, and cost optimization. To apply it, you assess your workload against these pillars and implement best practices accordingly. Our next interview question is, how does AWS CloudTrail help with security and compliance? Your answer should be AWS CloudTrail provides a record of actions taken by a user role or AWS service in your AWS account, capturing API calls and related events. It helps with security analysis, resource change tracking, compliance auditing, and troubleshooting. Our next interview question is, what is the difference between Amazon ECS and Amazon EKS? Your answer should be Amazon ECS, that is Elastic Container Service, is a fully managed container orchestration service for Docker containers, while Amazon EKS Elastic Kubernetes Service is a fully managed Kubernetes service for deploying, managing, and scaling containerized applications using Kubernetes. Our next interview question is, how do you secure data at rest and in transit in AWS? Your answer should be data at rest can be secured using encryption mechanisms like AWS Key Management Service KMS for server-side encryption or client-side encryption using AWS SDKs or third-party libraries. Data in transit can be secured using SSL/TLS protocols, AWS Direct Connect, or VPN connections. Our next interview question is, explain the difference between AWS Code Pipeline and AWS Code Deploy. Your answer should be AWS Code Pipeline is a continuous integration and continuous delivery CI/CD service that automates the build, test, and deployment phases of your release process. AWS Code Deploy automates application deployments to Amazon EC2 instances, on-premises instances, or serverless Lambda functions. Our next interview question is, what is AWS Lambda Layers? Your answer should be AWS Lambda Layers are a way to centrally manage code and data shared across multiple Lambda functions. Layers can contain libraries, custom runtimes, or other dependencies, allowing you to avoid duplicating code across functions. Our next interview question is, how do you handle disaster recovery in AWS? Your answer should be disaster recovery in AWS involves using services like Amazon Route 53 for DNS failover, Amazon S3 for data backup and replication across regions, Amazon RDS multi-AZ deployment, and creating disaster recovery DR runbooks and performing regular DR testing. If you are preparing for any AWS-based certifications, you can download the complete list of valid, tried and tested questions and answers from the link provided in the description below. Today we are discussing the interview questions and answers for AWS Solutions Architect Professional SAP. You can download the complete list of AWS-based questions from the link provided in the description. Our interview question based on AWS SAP is, what is Amazon VPC? Your answer should be Amazon Virtual Private Cloud VPC is a service that lets you provision a logically isolated section of the AWS cloud where you can launch AWS resources in a virtual network that you define. Our next interview question is, explain the difference between Amazon S3 Standard, S3 Standard IA, and S3 Glacier storage classes. Your answer should be Amazon S3 Standard is for frequently accessed data. S3 Standard IA is for infrequently accessed data but requires rapid access when needed. And S3 Glacier is for long-term archival and backup data. Our next interview question is, how does AWS Identity and Access Management IAM work? Your answer should be IAM allows you to manage access to AWS services and resources securely. It enables you to create and manage users, groups, and roles to control who can access resources and what actions they can perform. Our next interview question is, what are AWS Cloud Formation templates? Your answer should be AWS Cloud Formation templates are text files written in JSON or YAML format that describe the AWS resources and configurations needed to run an application. Cloud Formation provisions and manages the resources defined in the template. Our next interview question is, explain the concept of AWS Direct Connect. Your answer should be AWS Direct Connect is a dedicated network connection between an on-premises data center and AWS, bypassing the public internet. It provides consistent network performance, lower latency, and enhanced security for data transfer. Our next interview question is, what is the difference between Amazon RDS and Amazon Redshift? Your answer should be Amazon RDS is a managed relational database service offering several database engines for OLTP workloads, while Amazon Redshift is a fully managed data warehousing service optimized for analytics and reporting OLAP. Our next interview question is, how do you design a highly available and scalable architecture in AWS? Your answer should be designing a highly available and scalable architecture in AWS involves using multiple availability zones, implementing load balancing, leveraging auto-scaling, deploying fault-tolerant services, and designing for elasticity. Our next interview question is, explain the AWS shared responsibility model. Your answer should be the AWS shared responsibility model delineates responsibilities between AWS for the security of the cloud and customers for the security in the cloud. AWS is responsible for securing the infrastructure, while customers are responsible for securing their data and applications. Our next interview question is, how does AWS CloudTrail help with security and compliance? Your answer should be AWS CloudTrail provides a record of actions taken by a user role or AWS service in your AWS account, capturing API calls and related events. It helps with security analysis, resource change tracking, compliance auditing, and troubleshooting. If you are preparing for any AWS based certifications, you can download the complete list of valid, tried and tested questions and answers from the link provided in the description below. Today we are discussing the interview questions and answers for AWS Solutions Architect Professional SAP. You can download the complete list of AWS based questions from the link provided in the description. Our interview question based on AWS SAP is, what is AWS Amplify and how is it used for building modern web and mobile applications? Your answer should be AWS Amplify is a set of tools and services for building full stack web and mobile applications on AWS. It provides features like authentication, data storage, GraphQL, APIs, hosting, and CI/CD, allowing developers to quickly build and deploy modern applications with scalable infrastructure. Our next interview question is, what is AWS lake formation and how does it facilitate building data lakes on AWS? Your answer should be AWS Lake Formation is a fully managed service that simplifies the process of building, securing, and managing data lakes on AWS. It provides capabilities for ingesting, cataloging, and securing data from various resources into a centralized data lake, making it easier for organizations to analyze and derive insights from large data sets. Our next interview question is, explain the concept of AWS Transit Gateway and how is it used for simplifying network architecture. Your answer should be AWS Transit Gateway is a service that simplifies network architecture by allowing you to connect multiple VPCs, on-premises networks, and VPN connections to a single gateway. It acts as a central hub for routing traffic between different network environments, simplifying network management and reducing the need for complex peering connections. Our next interview question is, how do you implement disaster recovery for Amazon EC2 instances? Your answer should be disaster recovery for Amazon EC2 instances can be implemented using various strategies such as creating automated backups using Amazon EC2 auto recovery, replicating EC2 instances across different AWS regions using AWS backup or third party solutions, and leveraging services like AWS Elastic Load Balancer for failover. Our next interview question is, what is AWS Data Pipeline and how is it used for orchestrating data workflows? Your answer should be AWS Data Pipeline is a managed service that helps you orchestrate and automate the movement and transformation of data across different AWS services and on-premises data sources. It allows you to define data-driven workflows using a visual interface or JSON templates, making it easier to schedule and manage complex data processing tasks. Our next interview question is, explain the differences between Amazon Neptune and Amazon Redshift. Your answer should be Amazon Neptune is a fully managed graph database service designed for building and querying graph data models, while Amazon Redshift is a fully managed data warehousing service optimized for running complex analytical queries on large data sets. Neptune is suitable for graph-based applications, while Redshift is ideal for data analytics and reporting. If you are preparing for any AWS-based certifications, you can download the complete list of valid, tried and tested questions and answers from the link provided in the description below. Today we are discussing the interview questions and answers for AWS Solutions Architect Professional SAP. You can download the complete list of AWS based questions from the link provided in the description. Our interview question based on SAP is, what is the difference between Amazon RDS multi-AZ deployment and Amazon RDS read replica? Your answer should be Amazon RDS multi-AZ deployment provides synchronous replication across different availability zones for high availability and automatic failover, while Amazon RDS read replicas are asynchronous replicas used for scaling read operations. Our next interview question is explain the differences between Amazon S3, EBS, and EFS. Your answer should be Amazon S3 object storage used for storing and retrieving data. Amazon EBS provides block storage volumes for use with EC2 instances, and Amazon EFS offers scalable file storage for use with EC2 instances. Our next interview question is how do you ensure data security in Amazon S3? Your answer should be data security in Amazon S3 can be ensured through various means such as bucket policies, access control lists, ACLs, IAM policies, encryption that is server side and client side, and versioning. Our next interview question is what is the difference between Amazon CloudFront and Amazon Route 53? Your answer should be Amazon CloudFront is a content delivery network CDN service used for caching and delivering content globally with low latency, while Amazon Route 53 is a scalable domain namespace name system DNS web service used for routing end users to internet applications. Our next interview question is explain the differences between Amazon DynamoDB and Amazon RDS. Your answer should be Amazon DynamoDB is a fully managed NoSQL database service designed for scalability and performance at any scale, while Amazon RDS is a managed relational database service offering several database engines like MySQL, PostgreSQL, etc. Our next interview question is what are the benefits of using AWS Lambda? Your answer should be AWS Lambda offers benefits such as serverless computing, automating scaling, cost effectiveness, pay per use model, reduced operational overhead, and support for multiple programming languages. Our next interview question is how can you optimize costs in AWS? Your answer should be cost optimization in AWS can be achieved through strategies like right sizing instances, using reserved instances, leveraging spot instances, optimizing storage, enabling auto scaling, and using AWS Cost Explorer for analysis. Our next interview question is explain the differences between horizontal scaling and vertical scaling. Your answer should be horizontal scaling. Scale out involves adding more instances to distribute the load, while vertical scaling, scale up, involves increasing the resources of an individual instances, for example, CPU and RAM. Our next interview question is what is an auto-scaling group in AWS? Your answer should be an auto-scaling group is a collection of EC2 instances that are managed together and automatically scaled based on predefined conditions on metrics. If you are preparing for any AWS based certifications, you can download the complete list of valid, tried and tested questions and answers from the link provided in the description below. Today we are discussing the interview questions and answers for AWS Solutions Architect Professional SAP. You can download the complete list of AWS-based questions from the link provided in the description. Our interview question based on AWS SAP is: what is AWS Glue and how is it used for data integration and ETL? Your answer should be AWS Glue is a fully managed extract, transform, and load ETL service that makes it easy to prepare and load data for analytics. It automates the process of discovering, cataloging, and transforming data, and it integrates with various AWS services for data integration and processing. Our next interview question is: explain the differences between Amazon Redshift Spectrum and Amazon Athena. Your answer should be Amazon Redshift Spectrum and Amazon Athena are both serverless query services for querying data stored in Amazon S3 using standard SQL. However, Amazon Redshift Spectrum is an extension of Amazon Redshift and allows you to run queries on data stored in S3 directly from your Redshift cluster, while Amazon Athena is a standalone service that enables you to query S3 data without the need for a cluster. Our next interview question is: how do you implement access control and authorization in AWS services? Your answer should be access control and authorization in AWS services can be implemented using AWS Identity and Access Management (IAM), which allows you to define policies and permissions to control access to AWS resources. IAM policies can be attached to users' groups, roles, and resources to enforce fine-grained access control. Our next interview question is: what is AWS Code Artifact and how does it help in artifact management? Your answer should be AWS Code Artifact is a fully managed artifact repository service that makes it easy to store, publish, and share software packages. It helps in artifact management by providing a centralized repository for storing dependencies, artifacts, and packages, and it integrates with popular build tools and package managers. Our next interview question is: how do you implement centralized logging and monitoring in AWS? Your answer should be centralized logging and monitoring in AWS can be implemented using services like Amazon CloudWatch Logs and Amazon CloudWatch Metrics for collecting and analyzing logs and metrics from various AWS services. You can use CloudWatch Logs for log aggregation and retention and CloudWatch Metrics for monitoring resource metrics and setting up alarms. Our next interview question is: explain the differences between Amazon ECS and AWS Fargate. Your answer should be Amazon ECS Elastic Container Service is a fully managed container orchestration service that allows you to run and manage Docker containers on EC2 instances on your own infrastructure. AWS Fargate is a serverless compute engine for ECS that allows you to run containers without managing underlying EC2 instances, simplifying container management and scaling. If you are preparing for any AWS-based certifications, you can download the complete list of valid, tried and tested questions and answers from the link provided in the description below. Today we are discussing the interview questions and answers for AWS Solutions Architect Professional SAP. You can download the complete list of AWS-based questions from the link provided in the description. Our interview question based on AWS SAP is: what is AWS config and how does it help with compliance and auditing? Your answer should be: AWS config is a service that enables you to assess, audit, and evaluate the configuration of your AWS resources. It continuously monitors resource configurations for compliance with predefined rules, provides a detailed resource inventory, and helps you track changes to resource configurations over time. Our next interview question is: what is AWS X-ray and how does it help in troubleshooting and debugging applications? Your answer should be: AWS X-ray is a distributed tracing service that helps developers analyze and debug distributed applications by providing insights into application performance and behavior. It allows you to trace requests as they travel through various AWS services and microservices, identify performance bottlenecks, and troubleshoot errors. Our next interview question is: how do you implement cross-region replication for Amazon Aurora databases? Your answer should be: cross-region replication for Amazon Aurora databases can be implemented using Aurora Global Database, which allows you to create a globally distributed database with read replicas in multiple AWS regions. This feature provides fast local reads and disaster recovery capabilities across regions. Our next interview question is: explain the concept of AWS Storage Gateway and how is it used for hybrid cloud storage? Your answer should be: AWS Storage Gateway is a hybrid cloud storage service that enables on-premises applications to seamlessly access AWS cloud storage. It provides three types of storage gateways: file gateway, volume gateway, and tape gateway, allowing you to integrate on-premises applications with AWS storage services like Amazon S3, Amazon EBS, and Amazon Glacier. Our next interview question is: what is Amazon VPC flow logs and how does it help in network monitoring and security? Your answer should be: Amazon VPC flow logs is a feature that captures information about the IP traffic flowing in and out of network interfaces in your VPC. It provides visibility into network traffic patterns, helps in troubleshooting connectivity issues, and assists in security analysis by capturing data for forensic investigations and compliance auditing. Our next interview question is: how do you design a disaster recovery solution for Amazon RDS databases? Your answer should be: designing a disaster recovery solution for Amazon RDS databases involves implementing multi-AZ deployment for high availability within a region, enabling automated backups with retention periods for point-in-time recovery, and using cross-region replication with Amazon RDS read replicas for disaster recovery across regions. Our next interview question is, what is Amazon Massey and how does it help in data security and compliance? Your answer should be Amazon Massey is a security service that uses machine learning to automatically discover, classify, and protect sensitive data stored in Amazon S3. It helps in data security and compliance by identifying and alerting on potential security risks, unauthorized access, and data exposure. If you are preparing for any AWS based certifications, you can download the complete list of valid, tried and tested questions and answers from the link provided in the description below. Today we are discussing the interview questions and answers for AWS Solutions Architect Professional SAP. You can download the complete list of AWS based questions from the link provided in the description. Our interview question based on AWS SAP is, what is AWS Direct Connect and how does it differ from VPN connections? Your answer should be AWS Direct Connect is a dedicated network connection between your on-premises network and AWS, providing a private connection that bypasses the internet for enhanced security and consistent network performance. VPN connections, on the other hand, use encrypted tunnels over the internet to connect to AWS. Our next interview question is, explain the differences between Amazon CloudWatch logs and Amazon Cloud Trail. Your answer should be Amazon CloudWatch Logs is a service for monitoring and storing log files from various AWS services and applications, allowing you to analyze and troubleshoot issues. Amazon Cloud Trail, on the other hand, is a service that records API calls and events for auditing, compliance, and security analysis. Our next interview question is, what are the advantages of using AWS Lambda over traditional server based architectures? Your answer should be AWS Lambda offers advantages such as serverless computing, that is, eliminating the need to provision or manage servers, automatic scaling, reduced operational overhead, cost effectiveness, that is, pay per use pricing model, and support for multiple programming languages. Our next interview question is, how do you design a secure and scalable architecture for microservices in AWS? Your answer should be designing a secure and scalable architecture for microservices in AWS involves using Amazon ECS or Amazon EKS for container orchestration, implementing service mesh for communication between microservices using AWS IAM for access control, and leveraging AWS managed services for security and monitoring. Our next interview question is, what is AWS Elastic Beanstalk and how does it simplify application deployment? Your answer should be AWS Elastic Beanstalk is a platform as a service PaaS offering that simplifies the deployment, scaling, and management of web applications and services. It automatically handles the provisioning of resources, load balancing, auto scaling, and application health monitoring. Our next interview question is explain the difference between Amazon DynamoDB streams and Amazon Kinesis data streams. Your answer should be Amazon DynamoDB streams is a feature that captures changes to items in a DynamoDB table and allows you to process these changes in real time. Amazon Kinesis Data Streams is a service for collecting and processing large streams of data records in real time. Our next interview question is how do you ensure data durability and availability in Amazon S3? Your answer should be data durability and availability in Amazon S3 are ensured through features like data replication across multiple availability zones, automatic detection and repair of data errors using checksums, versioning for object protection, and frequent data integrity checks. Our next interview question is what is AWS Shield and how does it protect against DDoS attacks? Your answer should be AWS Shield is a managed distributed denial of service DDoS protection service that safeguards web applications running on AWS against large-scale DDoS attacks. It provides protection against common DDoS attack vectors such as SYNACK floods, UDP reflection attacks, and DNS query floods. If you are preparing for any AWS based certifications, you can download the complete list of valid, tried and tested questions and answers from the link provided in the description below. Today we are discussing the interview questions and answers for AWS Solutions Architect Professional SAP. You can download the complete list of AWS based questions from the link provided in the description. Our interview question based on AWS SAP is what is AWS step functions and how is it used for workflow orchestration? Your answer should be AWS Step Functions is a serverless orchestration service that allows you to coordinate and automate workflows using visual workflows called state machines. It enables you to build scalable and resilient applications by defining complex workflows as a series of steps. Our next interview question is explain the concept of AWS Cloud Trail Insights. Your answer should be AWS Cloud Trail Insights is a feature that helps detect and investigate unusual activity in your AWS account by analyzing CloudTrail logs and identifying anomalous patterns or potential security threats based on machine learning algorithms. Our next interview question is how do you implement high availability and fault tolerance for stateful applications in AWS? Your answer should be implementing high availability and fault tolerance for stateful applications in AWS involves using services like Amazon RDS multi-AZ deployment for database failover, deploying across multiple availability zones, implementing data replication, and leveraging features like elastic load balancing and auto scaling. Our next interview question is what is AWS Key Management Service KMS and how does it work? Your answer should be AWS Key Management Service. KMS is a managed service that allows you to create and control encryption keys used to encrypt your data and integrates with other AWS services to provide encryption for data at rest and in transit. Our next interview question is, how do you implement cross-account access in AWS? Your answer should be cross-account access in AWS can be implemented using IAM roles with permissions that grant access across AWS accounts. By establishing trust relationships between accounts and assigning appropriate permissions, users or services in one account can access resources in another account securely. Our next interview question is, what is AWS App Config and how is it used for managing application configurations? Your answer should be AWS App Config is a managed service that helps you manage application configurations and feature flags centrally. It allows you to deploy configurations dynamically, control feature rollouts, and monitor configuration changes in real time. Our next interview question is, what is AWS Direct Connect and how does it differ from VPN connections? Your answer should be AWS Direct Connect is a dedicated network connection between your on-premises network and AWS, providing a private connection that bypasses the Internet for enhanced security and consistent network performance. VPN connections, on the other hand, use encrypted tunnels over the Internet to connect to AWS. If you are preparing for any AWS based certifications, you can download the complete list of valid, tried and tested questions and answers from the link provided in the description below.